Alrighty, guys, welcome to Chat with the Brewer Live. My name's Seth. We're live at Wooden Legs Brewing Company here in Brookings, South Dakota. I've got Jeff and Josh from Crow Peak Brewing Company online. How you guys doing?
Very well.
Doing good.
Now, you guys come all the way out from the Black Hills. We have a number of people that are trying the beers here. We want to know a bit more about you and, of course, Crow Peak Brewing Company. Maybe one of you guys could tell us kind of maybe a little background. How did Crow Peak Brewing Company start?
Well, I moved here to the Black Hills from San Diego and didn't have any job prospects, and thought opening a brewery might be a worthwhile endeavor. And so I, with the help of my wife and we opened a small brewery with a tap room in 2007, and it did fairly well and got a lot of popular or local support. And then I was fortunate enough for Josh and his wife Tanya to come in one day, and we chatted for a while, and they expressed interest in maybe partnering up in the future, and that eventually happened. So in 2009 we were able to build our bigger brewery and start producing beer to distribute.
So you guys are 7 years in. I think most of our viewers, most of the people here know you guys as probably the modern founders of beer or craft beer in South Dakota. That's a pretty distinguished title, only being 7 years old. I hear there's works for expansion again on the horizon.
Yeah, we're definitely discussing that option and trying to figure out what the best way would be to go about that.
So for you guys, how did you get into brewing? I mean, if coming from San Diego, there's probably a lot of obvious ways to get hooked into the brewing scene there. But how did you get into brewing? Start as a home brewer, or did you work with other brewers?
I did. I started as a home brewer. I did that for many years and worked my way up the homebrew level from using kits to extract brewing. Moved on to all grain brewing. So that gave me a pretty good basis of the whole brewing process. And then when I decided to do this on a commercial level, I did go to the American Guild Brewing School. And when I got finished up with that, I did an internship at a brewery in Oregon just to gain some practical experience on bigger systems before I started the one here in Spearfish.
So out in Spearfish there, you guys, how big a system do you guys have? Is it a 30-barrel system you're brewing with and distributing around? And how many states are you guys in right now?
Yep, it's a 30-barrel system, and then we have 3 60-barrel fermenters and 1 60-barrel bright beer tank. So we double back everything. And as far as distribution, we're all of South Dakota, eastern North Dakota, Omaha, Lincoln area of Nebraska, eastern Wyoming, and far western Minnesota, right on the border.
So that's cans and kegs, correct?
Correct.
Now, I know you guys put out some specialty beers. We have a chance every once in a while to get our hands on some of those. Are those just on draft right now, or do you? How do you pick what you can? And do you guys get into bombers or anything big, any big format bottling like that?
No, but we've discussed doing some big format bottling just to allow us to offer some of our more specialty stuff to people other than just coming in a tap room. We've been trying to work seasonal offerings into our production side. So right now we have out the Wobbling Wheel Scotch Ale, Mjolnir's, the Spruce Tip Ale. Then I'll be doing Irish Red Ale here in the next week or two. So we're working in those seasonals into that, and then I still brew on our small little 5-barrel system in the old brewery, and so that's where most of the the small batch stuff that we serve in the tap room comes from. And I've been trying to push that a little bit so that we can get at least some draft out of some of those small batch beers.
So with all the different brews you make, do you have a favorite one you like to make? Do you have a favorite one you like to drink?
I mean, my go-to is always the IPA. I just like hoppy beer, so that's what I like to do. That's the one I'll drink most often, and then every year around my birthday, I brew an Imperial IPA, and I always change that up from year to year. So it's always a good one to
Well,
play around with and drink.
we've got a number of people here trying the 11th hour. That always seems to be popular on tap. For I guess for the viewers that don't know, it is called the 11th hour IPA. How did that name come about?
Well, 11th Hour is a little canyon up Spearfish Canyon, a little side canyon off of there, and in the winter there's a good ice climate out there, and it's a nice hiking spot, in the summer months. And it was just kind of I was trying to use local landmarks for beer names, just to get a local flavor, and so that's where the 11th Hour came from.
So we also have Pile of Dirt. Now, we have the porter on. Where does Pile of Dirt come from?
That came from my frustration when I was building the original brewery, the little 5-barrel brew house. The property I bought was in the 100-year floodplain, and so I was getting I had all these things to do, and one of the final obstacle was that we had to raise the building out of the floodplain, so I had to put it on 4 feet. I had to have somebody bring 4 feet of dirt in with enough square footage to accommodate the building. I just got frustrated and decided to call it Pile of Dirt Porter.
I think we're going to open it up for a few questions here. I'm going to go grab one of your beers from behind the bar. I'm going to hand it over to Chris here. If you haven't met Chris, Chris is our lead brewer here at Wooden Legs Brewing Company. He's the man with that puts the imagination to work here. I'm going to hand it over to Chris. I think Chris has a couple questions, and I've got some other people here that have mentioned they'd like to just have a quick chat with you.
Okay.
How you doing, bud?
Good. How are you?
Good. I've actually got 2 questions. I guess the first one I was going to ask is, from here, I think we've seen a pretty reasonable amount of growth in the last year or two for the number of breweries and the beer scene in South Dakota. Where do you see it going from here, particularly over in the Black Hills, because that seems to be the highest concentration of breweries in the state? Where do you see it going over the next 5 years?
Well, I'm hoping to see further growth. I mean, I think there's always room for craft breweries pop up, and throughout the hills. I mean, we have the one in Custer, Hill City has the one, now Sturgis has one. So, I think having these new breweries pop up in, all throughout the hills is a good thing, and I think people who come to visit the hills during the tourist season really appreciate the fact that they can visit a number of breweries. I think Rapid City, there's room for another brewery in Rapid City, maybe on a bigger scale than Hay Camp and Firehouse. But I hope to see some further growth. I mean, I don't think we've reached the saturation point yet, and I can see there being several more breweries popping up. And I look forward to seeing those happen and trying their beers.
Hey Jeff, this is Seth again. What we've seen over here is we've seen a trend towards always big and hoppy and incredibly powerful beers, but also for sours and oak age. Do you think that's the next step in brewing, or is the whole are we going to go a different direction? Are we going to get into session beers or some of the others?
I've seen indications of both. I mean, the sours and the Belgians are definitely taking off for sure. But you start reading about people complaining about the hop shortages, or not enough hops because people are brewing these big IPAs, and I think there's room for session beers. I mean, not everyone wants to go drink a high gravity, number of high gravity beers. It's kind of nice to be able to go have a few session beers and still be able to make your way home and not have to worry about that. So I think we'll kind of head back towards the session beer end, and some of those bigger breweries, West Coast breweries, they're dabbling those session IPAs that are lower alcohol and still have that hoppy characteristic. You can enjoy more than just one or two. So I would say that's where it's going. But I do think that the Belgian styles are going to keep becoming more popular for a while anyway.
All right, I've got a question for you. So what do you guys have coming up that you can possibly send our way?
Well,
I hear you have a peppermint stout.
yeah, I just kegged up the rest of that. We were kind of on the tail end of that. Adam, our assistant brewer, brewed that one, and unfortunately, Adam decided he wanted to move out to Washington State, so I lost my assistant brewer. So that makes it a little hard to squeeze in more small batch stuff that I'd like to, but I kind of have to keep up with the production stuff too. So I have a rye brown ale that I want to brew using organic rye that was grown up in North Dakota. So I wanted that. And then I'll just have to take time to come up with some newer recipes. But like I said, I'm trying to ramp that up where I can increase the amount that I brew in that smaller system so that we have the capability to send some out your guys' way, in other areas. So right now I don't have a specific recipe other than the rye brown ale in mind, but sure, as the year moves on, I'll come up with some stuff and we'll get it out to you guys.
Have you made anything recently with any of the local hops or?
Well, the last thing I brewed was that 605 ale that you guys got out there with the hops that the Anderson brew. I'm still waiting to get some more from him. I don't know where he is in the process. I know he is trying to get his palletizer up and running and get all that going, and I need to call him and find out what's going on with all that. But as far that was the last beer that was brewed with those local hops, the 605.
There was the one question from the back here. We were talking, and we said that you guys are the largest brewery in South Dakota. How much do you guys brew a year? Where? And you said you go through those states, but what's your capacity a year? And do you have any other specialties that you give on the special 5-barrel?
Yeah, our annual capacity for the last 2 years has been about 1,900 barrels, and we're kind of limited right now space-wise, which is why we can't really increase that capacity until we decide how we're going to make our expansion happen. So yeah, 1,900. We'll probably push it to 2,000 annually, and then we'll just have to figure out how to get more tanks in. And then on the small system, I probably brew 150, maybe 200 barrels on that system. It's a pretty old, you've seen that stuff, it's pretty old and not very energy efficient. So again, with our possible expansion, we would like to get get a smaller system, kind of a pilot system, but a little more efficient than that one over there right now.
So I've actually got another question. Whilst we've been open, we have had a few brewers come through they're looking at starting their own brewery, and they've come here to try and learn a bit about how we do things and just come and do a brew day with us and see how it figures out. And I know that when we started, Seth and the guys came over to you, and we learned a lot of stuff from you. Where did you learn it from, or did you just figure it out from the ground up from homebrewer level? And how do you go from a homebrewer level to a 30-barrel brew house?
Yeah, like I said, when I decided to turn it into commercial, proposition from homebrewing, I did take the brewer's course through the American Brewers Guild, and that, although I knew a lot of this, it's all the same and the process the same, but scaling up, there are some differences. And that class really helped, just kind of gave me a perspective on how you go about brewing on a large-scale system. And then again, going and doing the internship was Wild River Brewing in Oregon, and they had a 15-barrel brew house. So I just got to work on that for I think I was up there for a couple of months and got to know all aspects of the way they brewed things, and that again really helps me out. So it's similar, you know. I went and somebody else kind of showed me the ropes.
Well, this is Seth again. As Chris mentioned, we really appreciate what you guys have done for craft beer in South Dakota, and specifically for acting as a mentor here for the pub out in Brookings. The question I always like to ask on these things is that if you have to give words of advice to those looking to be a craft beer bar or get into the brewing industry, what words of advice would you give them?
Make sure you have enough capital for sure. But the words of advice, make sure that you're passionate enough about it that you're gonna continue to enjoy the process. You know, rather than having it become a job where you're just gonna think, oh boy, I have to go up and brew again. I mean, make sure that your passion for your craft is adequate enough to sustain you through this hard times. I mean, there are times when either financially it's rough or your brewing system, something goes wrong and you get frustrated with that. You know, when I first started with the old system, my second batch on that system, I didn't have everything worked out and kind of had to dump that second batch of beer. Not the beer, it was mashing in that I messed up on, and so it's just make sure you really enjoy it, really love it, and you want to keep on going, and everything else should follow.
Well, Josh, we appreciate your time here. For those watching and those here, they know that they can always find a Crow Peak beer on tap down here at Wooden Legs Brewing Company. Just as a plug, if they're heading out to the Black Hills, where do they find you out in the Black Hills? Not only for retail, but if they want to knock on your door, tell us about your tap room and where to find you.
Well, we're kind of on the outskirts of Fish, outside of city limits, which is kind of nice in kind of called the Lower Valley. But our tap room is a nice, really nice, comfortable place to hang out. We have a fireplace that's in the shape of a growler, and got a lot of friendly people that show up around here. So if you come out, we're located at 125 Westway 14. So if you just get on your phone and put that in, it should tell you how to get here.
Well, the brewing company here is on Highway 14 as well, so I'll consider you our closest neighbor then. Josh, tell Josh thanks for his time. Jeff, thank you for your time as well. I know you guys are busy guys. I heard you were kegging today. We will chat again. I'll actually be out on Wednesday. We'll have to grab a pint or something. But, again, thanks from the bottom of our hearts here in Brookings. Thanks for the time today, and thanks for everything you've done for the craft beer in South Dakota.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.